So I just got my hands on an early edition of Clair Obscure's Expedition 33. And this is the first time I've actually been given early access to a game, so I'm super excited. So I'm doing something a little bit unusual for my channel and doing a bit of a review. I guess I've had my hands on it for 2.5 hours now. I played the first 2.5 hours of the game. That's the only game time I've had access to, so I thought I'd give it a crack. And I'm going to be uploading that playthrough following this video if you want to check out my experience with it. But I guess for this video, I kind of wanted to share my experience with the game, what I think of it, whether or not it's worth playing, and for you guys who like my stuff and my channel and the things that I'm interested in, see if you'd like it as well. So let's get into it. First of all, Clair Obscure Expedition 33. I didn't really know much about it. I had a few friends who are big D&D fans, Final Fantasy fans, tell me about it, but beyond that, I didn't really look much into it. Now, one thing you need to know about me is I don't really look too much into games. I don't research them. I don't watch too much gameplay trailers. I don't watch too much previews because I don't want my expectations to be tainted by over-marketing games. Because I don't know about you, but I've been burnt so many times by really being keen on a game, by all the trailers and stuff like that, to finally play it and be disappointed. So to eliminate that, I don't really buy into it too much. I'll watch a couple things, figure out what it's about, and kind of leave it at that and wait for the launch. That way I go in with a blank slate. So I kind of did that with this game, but obviously the key request came up, so I'm like, oh, I'll give it a crack because it does look interesting. And I gotta say, I'm actually really, I don't know if I say surprised, like the little bits that I did see about it looked really good. I'm really impressed with the game overall. So Clair Obscure Expedition 33. If you're a big fan of Final Fantasy games with a bit of turn-based, like traditional Final Fantasy games, I should say, like previous to Final Fantasy 14 and onwards, where it's turn-based combat, you're going to like this game. Very story-driven. It's got a very, very good narrative. I'll get into that in a little bit. And the combat is quite unique for a turn-based combat game. I haven't come across, played anything like it myself, and it's really fluid, really snappy, and it's really cool. Every character that you play as has their own different mechanics that work through in combat, and you have a lot more control rather than just weighing in the stats of can you defend this and tank the damage on each turn. You have the ability to try and either parry the attack or dodge it, and so I'm playing the game on expert, and that is terribly difficult. I'm terrible at dodging and terrible at parrying the attacks. But when you land a parry, for example, it gives you the ability to do some damage back to the enemy. Or you can do dodge, which is a little bit easy to get off, but obviously you dodge the attack completely. So you have the ability to obviously counterattack when the enemy has their turn, which is really cool. The combat mechanics themselves, like the main guy that you play, Gustard, he has the ability to... So every time he attacks, he builds up his overcharge, and then he can use his overcharge attack, which does a lot more damage. I didn't really use that mechanic, admittedly, too much. And Luna, which is a bit of a spellcaster, she can cast elemental spells, and then those elemental spells create stains, and then those stains can power up a different elemental attack. So there's quite a few different combinations, but what I really like about the combat is it's quick and it's snappy. Your traditional JRPG turn-based combats, the combat sequences go in, it's very slow, it takes a bit. But this is it comes in, you punch out the combat, it's very dynamic, it's very, very fluid, it's very fun and challenging, and then you're out of combat and you're back to free roaming around the map again. So it's quite good. And the one thing that I didn't realize that this game was a Souls-like. Yeah, a Souls-like with turn-based combat like a Final Fantasy game. So basically, it's just like Dark Souls, where you've got the sword, but in this case it's a flag. You go back to the flag, you rest, you heal up, and then you can go back out into the combat and face all the exact same enemies again. Train up on them, go back, rest, and then fight the same monsters again. Rinsing and repeating until you get better at the game. So quite a good mechanic, and pretty good to have because some of the fights are pretty difficult. The only thing is that every time you die, you don't go back to that sword. You kind of just go back a few steps back before that fight. So it's a little bit more forgiving than your standard Souls-like. But overall, pretty happy with the combat. Honestly, I think it's just a really good what's the word I'm looking for here? It just goes really well with how fluent and how fast the game seems to flow. So besides that, let's have a little talk about the storyline. So the story is very, very dark. It's so basically, without going into too much detail, it's really hard. Set in a post-apocalyptic France. There's not much that's been explained as to what's going on or why it's happening at this point in the game. But basically there's this big number being painted on a tree in the distance. And every year this giant woman comes and repaints the number to a different number, and everyone of that number and older, or older than the number, just disappears and dies. And so basically the expedition is the year before that number comes up. So in this case, 33. They all go over to the mainland to try and destroy the giant lady from painting another number and saving everyone. So that's where, when you think about it, it's very dark. So this is Expedition 33. So at 34, everyone older than 34 is dead. They've gone, disappeared. Poof. Whether they're dead or not, who knows? But like, they're just, the general feeling is that they're all dead. So that means like every single year up until this point, every single, like for the last 100 years or like 67 years, somebody has died. Like not somebody, but everybody of that age and older has died. So like, it's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. And eventually, everyone will just keep dying up until their kids are dying. It's really morbid. And it kind of keeps on that same tone throughout the entire, like, first couple of hours I've played. It's very dark. There's a lot of heavy moments in it. It's pretty intense. And I gotta say, as horrible as it sounds, it's refreshing because there's not many games that kind of tackle this kind of dark story. Most games these days are very lighthearted and they dance around kind of death and like the permanence of it and the attachment people have. It's very, very dark. Apart from the storyline, so I'm not going to go too much further into it than that. I don't know much more about it myself. Told in such a way that's very interesting. Like, there's so many unanswered questions. So, like, I've kind of given you a brief recap. I still barely understand it, but I'm interested and I'm invested. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what the outcome is because it's such an interesting story. So it's got me hooked. And so there's very little that could probably pull me away from that at this point. The characters are really good, interesting designed. They're not over the top. They're quite just unique to the occasion and to the setting. They're not overly dramatic or anything. They're just nice. And it's definitely got its French flair, which is really nice. I don't mind it. The clothing looks really good. Like, the graphics looks fantastic. Some of the facial features of the characters when they're in dialogue doesn't really marry up. It doesn't really work that well, but it's not really anything that I'm too worried about. I've seen worse in other games. So it's not big a deal. The voice acting's really good. So this has got the voice actress who does Shadowheart in it. Jennifer English, so she voices one of the characters. So very recognizable voice. I can't hear anyone but Shadowheart when she talks. That's just an unfortunate thing about being a voice actor, I guess. Apart from that, there's not many other things that I really have to comment on it. A couple of the negative things that I could probably point out if I was to really be nitpicky is that the maps do feel, especially early on, it feels very linear. So I feel like I'm just walking down a very similar path, and it's giving very Final Fantasy 13 vibes, where it was all very linear and then there was just bosses or like enemies to fight along the way. So it feels very like Final Fantasy 13. But the combat's very quick and snappy and not too difficult so far. Worn out by that kind of combat loop. There are some other areas to explore, but also because like you're traveling so fast, like the running animation and the running speed is so fast that you get around the map pretty quickly. So you miss a lot of the detail that's kind of happening in the map. So it does feel a little bit fast-paced and maybe too fast-paced for the linearness of it. But otherwise, this is probably something very nitpicky. And the only other thing I would have to say is the game, it takes a long time to kind of get into it. It's just a bit story heavy at the start, but I mean, it is a narrative-based game, so not really too worried about that. But if you're expecting to get into the action straight out of the gates, you're probably not going to get that from this game. But if you're a big fan of Final Fantasy and like the older Final Fantasy games where it's like really fantasy and there's a lot of unanswered questions and you like the turn-based combat, you're probably going to like this game. So for me, I'm a big fan of it. I've always loved Final Fantasy games, and this game takes that idea and has put a really unique and very interesting spin on it. So if you like that kind of stuff, and I mean, if you like fantasy and you like story and narrative-driven games, you're probably going to like this one. So I would suggest giving it a go. Anyway, guys, that's kind of my 10 minutes worth of this game. If you have enjoyed this review and you want to hear more stuff like this, let me know. It's not something I would normally do. It's it's something I could do more often if you guys are interested. So if you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to hear more of my feedback, input, opinions, reviews of games, let me know in the comment section below and subscribe to the channel for more cool stuff. Anyway, See you later, guys.